Hi there, welcome to University. I'm Jeff Rader, co-founder of Harry's, and very fortunate to be here with David Chang, restaurateur, brand superstar creator, second-time University All-Star. It's awesome to have you here. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me back.
So I thought I'd start with a really important question, which is, what did you have for breakfast this morning?
I had a little leftover Chinese food. It was fried rice and this like spicy soup.
Yeah, I find that Chinese food's pretty good when you've had a couple cocktails the night before and you just want to like ease your way into a day.
The reason it happened, I was out to dinner Saturday night with a couple guys from the business industry, cooks and chefs, and they were talking about the best way to eat Chinese food is like in your boxers with the refrigerator door open, and you're just like eating it out of all the containers. And I hadn't done that in a while. So I wanted that moment because I love it so much.
My next really important question, what's your favorite curse word?
I say a lot. I curse all day.
Do you use the F-bomb
all the time,
try to further motivate somebody to do something versus just saying like, hey, like make the soup versus make the soup?
It's always the soup. But I think you can emphasize it by the tonation of
right.
And I can't do it like, I have to be like in the moment. Like
right.
Today, it's been a very busy day. I must have said maybe 150 times.
So one of the things that I read about you is that you left a finance job. Why did you go into finance to begin with?
Well,
and then, what did it take to leave?
I don't know. I think it's very rare to know what you're doing when you're 18, 19, 20.
Yeah, and that's why we're talking to these guys today. Hear that?
And
I didn't know either.
I would be very concerned with the individuals like, oh, I'm going to do this. Like, I didn't know what I necessarily wanted to do because I changed my major like 1,000 times. And even job, I didn't even know. And because I did so poorly in school, the places that I actually wanted to work weren't really going to hire me. I literally decided to not do this. I was going to teach English. And my senior year, I signed up for the very first career counseling session. Like, I didn't even give a shit what it was. And I just said, oh, this is what I'm going to do. And it was a program in Japan. And it was just more of a delay.
Yeah.
And I wish at the time somebody said, you should take a year off. A gap year, I think, is vital.
If you could have done anything in that gap year, what would it have been?
Traveled. I think being able to learn that there's other things out there dramatically changes your outlook on things. I wanted to drop out of college to go to cooking school when I was abroad in London because I wanted to go to Cordon Bleu there. But my dad was vehemently opposed to it because essentially he worked his entire life to make sure I would never work in restaurants like he did.
So you want to go to Cordon Bleu, you want to drop out of school,
Yeah.
learn cooking, you're like, I think I have a gift here.
No gift.
Or I'm interested in
I
this.
generally didn't think I was good at anything.
So how did the conversation go with your dad?
It was pretty simple. It's like, no. It was pretty simple. Like, there was a conversation. It was like, oh, I think this is what college was for me, was not just cooking, but I think what was very good for me was I learned how to talk to people. It was more like, I don't know what I want to do. And I hear that all the time from young kids that are in college, like, what do I want, like.
Yeah.
I think not knowing is the best thing for you.
Yeah.
You just got to embrace the freak out. So that's what I say.
So when did the freak out hit its max? Like it's sort of when was the paramount moment of freak out? I had now a crappy finance job, and I realized people were partying so hard in New York because they hated their job so much. And I just was like, this is not necessarily what I want to do either, but I was doing a job that I don't even want to get into, but I was basically a gopher, and I hated it so much, and I had such a sort of breakdown of what I wanted to do, because I thought even if I was good at my job and talented at it, I would still wind up in the middle. I'd still be average at best at something I care so little about. I thought the only way I could get out of it was doing something that I wanted to do, at least try, and that would be cooking. I knew that I would rather struggle and do stuff that at least interested me than spend the rest of my life doing shit that I hated. I poured myself into cooking. I was in cooking school by day, and by night I was working at the Mercer Kitchen, and weekends I was answering phones at Kraft because that hadn't even opened up yet. And
it dawned on me that somebody that hated to work, that would never study, I was like, wait a second, like I am now working 7 days a week, maybe 100 hours plus, and I don't hate my job. I'm in a place that career-wise is amazing. Life is amazing. I'm blessed with all of these opportunities, and I have great people working at Momofuku. And now it's like I have this thing that I genuinely care about. I found that I care a lot about the work. I care a lot about excellence. I just feel like maybe I didn't have the right people to show me that.
And if we're thinking about these students, they're probably in a pretty similar spot than you were. And if you think about you and your friends, what do you think sort of was different about your mindset than theirs? Like why did you go on one path and they stay on another?
What you need to learn is how to make the best kind of mistakes. And you're not going to learn that with everyone that is as, basically like you or have the same career ambitions. So, I think there's a lot of people out there that want to know what to do. And I just think that literally, as cheesy as it sounds and cliche, and you hear it all the time, do something that interests you. Simple as that. And see how far you can take it.
So you decide you're going to get off the well-worn path. What do you think the keys to the success of that first restaurant, which was the noodle bar, right?
Right.
The noodle bar were? Like, how did you make it special, and how did you make it work?
I think that had I taken investor money, I would have failed miserably. But the fact that it was my money, some of my dad, some of his friends, failure wasn't an option. And that was it. Like, I wanted to open a restaurant because it was a difficult process. And 2001 was such a shitty year.
Yeah, in New York.
New York.
Talk about opening it then.
And I was like really reflective. I was like, what the hell, what doesn't matter? Like, if you make a mistake, like what I don't want to have is any regret. And if I follow the traditional path cooking, in which was work in a great restaurant, and eventually if you're good enough, someone might give you money to have your own restaurant. That was like the only game plan. And I was just like, well, I'm never gonna be better than half of these people that I'm with. I gotta do something else. And I thought that opening a restaurant was so taxing and physically difficult to do. That was my process of like getting me out of my funk of wherever I was. And then also it was like everyone's gonna say you're gonna fail. And I learned that was an amazing motivator.
Yeah. What was the story when someone was like, this is never gonna work?
Mentally I said, fuck you.
Yeah, but who said that to you?
Everybody. Everybody.
Yeah.
I said it to myself too. Oh, this is gonna fail. And then realize you're like, fuck you. That's basically it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna eat crow and I'm gonna serve it to you.
As a New Yorker who has the fortune of having gone to your restaurants a bunch, and maybe we just take Noodle Bar to start. What makes the ramen at the original Noodle Bar better than any other ramen that's out there?
The funny thing is I don't think the Noodle Bar ramen is better than anything else that's out there.
Wow.
I think I have a firm understanding that everything is better than us. It keeps us hungry. And I fully understand our critics. They'll be like, oh, it sucks. It's so 10 years old. Or it's not even good anymore. It's not even relevant. And I feel like if you just stay true, and there's other ways to tweak our broth and innovate, it just doesn't have to be a wholesale change.
Yeah. Have you changed the broth over time?
All the time. But we're trying to constantly mimic the flavor that we're originally after. We're just trying to find better ways to do it, cleaner ways to do it. I mean, I know New York Times said it's just not as good as it used to be. I'm like, well, good on them. They feel that way, but it would be different if I wasn't confident in it. And I knew that we weren't caring about it. But the reality is we care tremendously about it. We're just on our own path now, and we don't give a shit what anyone else says.
There's so many people who make something that works, and they're like, oh, this works. Let's just not screw it up. But it clearly feels like you've taken another path, which is like, okay, it works, okay. I gotta go make it better. I gotta go make it cleaner. I gotta go figure out how to tweak it and improve it. And
well, yeah, it's a general belief that, at least in the restaurant industry, that anytime you think that something's working, or oh man, we've done it, we're good, you've already fucked up.
Yeah.
Something terrible is about to happen.
You never arrive.
No, and I don't want it just to be good. I have to we want it to destroy everything.
Can we just talk about what miso is for a second so I don't royally mess it up? And then Can we talk about how you're making miso better? Because that's pretty sweet.
So miso is soybean that's been cooked and inoculated with a mold called Aspergillus oryzae, which is known as koji in Japanese. And that koji is what makes soy sauce taste like soy sauce, miso tastes like miso,
Right.
sake. It has all that beautiful floral notes.
Yeah. It's like one of the best flavors,
Right.
most consumed flavors in the whole world.
For years, it would be years, I would go to Japan and always sort of marvel at how delicious their soy products are. And I feel like Japan, why would they sell the best product to American chefs? They wouldn't. They're going to sell the stuff that is of lower tier quality. So I just felt it bothers me on principle that I would pay premium to get the shitty product. And then on probably one of my many trips to Japan, I saw that they're making this in plastic tubs in a concrete building with American soybeans. I can do this shit.
How do you choose your next projects?
For a long time, it was just like whatever I thought would be fun. I mean, we've never grown. Growth was never been thrust upon us because I never had any investors. It gave us the buffer to fuck up. And, I opened up in Australia. No one in their right mind would ever say it's a good idea to open up. Your first restaurant outside New York City would be in Sydney, Australia. I just thought it would be fun. So that was sort of how we did it. And now it's a little bit different because now we have 1,000+ employees. And I feel like I've been able to do all the things that I want to do. Now it's genuinely about everyone else that's part of Momofuku.
Where do you go for advice?
I think it's great to have mentors. And over the years, that's now changed from like chef figures to other successful people that can provide me some type of advice. And I think that starting a company, whether it's a restaurant or a shaving company, there are a lot of parallels that you can draw.
Yeah.
Because that very endeavor of opening a business on your own is something that not many people will ever feel. I think that one thing is important to realize is if you're going to get advice from people, don't limit yourself from where that advice could come from.
We're going to transition to a few questions from students. First is, after so much success, are you afraid that you'll never be able to do things you did while you're at your peak?
All the time. I'm consumed by what has happened in the past and will be able to replicate. And part of it is I just accept it that, no, I'm not going to be as good as I used to be.
One of the things that we talk a lot about too is like fear of failure. When you have nothing to lose, you're starting a company and you're in day one. If you fail, like who cares? But once you have a big business and a big brand, you start making big decisions, and all of a sudden failures are real and noticed by lots of people.
And harder to manage because there's other people involved.
Yeah.
It's just hard. And managing is actually something that I just never thought that I would ever want to do, or because I'm so bad at it.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to get better, but it's so hard.
On the management front, we have a question from Augusto from Johns Hopkins. How do you deal with scaling and expanding a culture and brand from one location to another, for example, from New York to Sydney, without affecting the authenticity of the product or without being seen as superficial as just a franchisee of a larger concept?
Well, in Sydney, long story cut short, I don't know that answer. If someone has the answer, I would like to know because it's so fucking hard.
Yeah.
Because culture, it's all about culture, right?
Yeah.
Getting people to believe in something. And I thought that when we opened up in Sydney, why do they care what happened in New York? Very quickly, the Momofuku brand and aura fades away. And you got to get to work. And I just very clearly laid out, we're going to win this, we're going to win this, we're going to win this. And we did it all. And people saw that it is a franchise, it is a chain, and it's in a place that no one in Sydney really sort of wants to go to. That was all the reason why I loved it.
Yeah.
So because no one thinks it can be successful, we're going to make it extraordinarily successful.
Yeah. This is the 1 in 100.
Yeah, and I just love proving people wrong.
Another question is from Chris from NYU. What keeps you sharp?
I think what keeps me sharp is I don't want to lose. I'm absolutely convinced that I'm going to win, and the people around me are going to win, and we will do whatever we need to in a moral fashion to sort of construct that.
So I'm a kid. I'm 22. I went to a good school. I have zero cooking talent, but I really want to work at Momofuku. How do I convince you that you should give me a shot?
I think the first off, if you're going to work at Momofuku, the best thing you can do is probably lie on your resume.
Right.
Say that you didn't go to a good school. Are you harder on yourself than anyone else? Are you empathetic? And are you generally a good person that wants to improve on things just like personally and like professionally? So, you know, we just hired all these people for DC. I didn't ask anybody for their cooking skills. Like, you can teach someone how to cook, but, you know, having some type of moral backbone, I think, is so much more important because, you know, every day you get knocked down. Every day there's something terrible that happens. And I want to be with a group of people that, you know, won't let each other down.
David Chang, thank you so much for being here with us. I think you are a prime example of the fact that if you just put your mind to it and do what you love, you will be dramatically successful at it. And you have been and you'll continue to be. And can't tell you how much we appreciate all of these words of wisdom that you've shared with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me, Ian.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for being here.